Anytime we have graphs for either the reading or the writing section, the first thing that we need to do is look at the graph and see, is the information that we're talking about actually true on the graph? I don't care whether it's relevant to the paragraph. Eventually I might need to, but we got to prioritize here. So let's focus on the easier thing first. What is the graph saying? So I know they're saying support the paragraph's claim, but again, let's just look at the graph itself. Choice A, these tourists made up nearly 90% of all the visitors to the park that year. So what tourists are we talking about? Well, they do say Yellowstone had 3 million tourists. Okay, fine. They spent 380 million in around the park. So I might need to know that we're talking about Yellowstone. The graph is talking about Yellowstone. So did the tourists make up 90% of all visitors to Yellowstone? Well, here's park visitors, and sure enough, tourists are 97%. So it just says that. That is true. So let's just move on. I don't know if it's right yet. Choice B, the incoming money was enough to support more than 5,000 jobs in the Yellowstone region. So the tourists, well, yeah, 5,000 jobs, more than 5,000. It seems like it's there. So okay, great, that's also true. C, residents of the region tended to spend less money in and around the park than tourists did. Well, it's saying that the tourists spent 99.51% of all the money in the park. But I don't know any individual transaction. Choice C is talking about like what an individual person would have spent. I have no idea. This is just a total. So I don't know how much money they would spend if they visited as individuals. And that's what the choice is saying. So C is just wrong. We don't have that kind of information. Maybe the people who live locally and go to the park are just big spenders and are basically like, I don't know, buying themselves a buffalo. I have no idea. So that doesn't even make sense. This is just not in the graph. Choice D, as per visitor spending in the park shows, well, that's already a bad start. They don't talk about per visitor spending. I have no idea what individuals are spending. It's not in the graph. So we can see visiting Yellowstone is a relatively economical vacation. I don't see how you could look at this chart and see the number 379 million and think of the word economical as working. It doesn't work. This is clearly saying there's just like a lot of money at stake. So I have no idea if going to Yellowstone is a good thing to spend your money on for a vacation. I don't know if it's cheap or not. So this is not talked about. Notice what they're doing here. The graph is talking about big picture totals. And two of the wrong answers are trying to give us assumptions about what individual people are doing. Individuals are not on the graph. So we cannot talk about them at all. Now, though, this happens sometimes too, where we do have multiple answers that are accurate, but we have to go back to the original question and think about relevance. So we're prioritizing accuracy first, but sometimes we also need to think, is it relevant to the paragraph? Well, what were they saying in this paragraph? They're talking about how land is good, protected land is good for a local area. And so in this part, they're saying in 2013, Yellowstone had more than 3 million tourists. They spent a total of nearly $380 million in and around the park. So they're talking about what they're spending. So I don't care that there's 97% were tourists. They're talking about the money. So B is going to support the paragraph. The whole paragraph is about how the protected lands are good for the region. And so we want to continue that idea. And so it's not just that there's a lot of people showing up, it's that those people lead to new jobs being created. So B is actually adding some important information. It's not just restating something from the graph. So this is a more complicated graph question, but we should never ever be getting these wrong. We always want to say, when we find these questions, we want to be like, okay, this is an easy set of points. Just read the chart, don't go beyond what the chart is saying, and you should be fine to get the right answer.